Hey friends, welcome. We are going live for today's ministry strategy session in just a moment. But first, can you guys hear me okay? Yesterday I had some audio issues with the stream. I unplugged everything and plugged all the cables back in, so I think I addressed yesterday's audio issue. So if you can see me and hear me all right, comment where you're tuning in. We're going to start in just a couple minutes. Today, I'm streaming from my home office. A little casual today, but I'm going to be talking a bit about content, broadcasting as congregations, and some of the things we need to be accomplishing. And I think some content creation traps we need to avoid. Welcome, Michael. How are you? What's it like where you are? Here, it's snowy, but very sunny now. Yeah, we had so much snow. So, some great questions coming in from sessions earlier in the week. I gotta tell you, some people really, I don't want to say shaken by some of the things I said about needing to keep digital going in parallel to like whatever we're doing gathering wise. But I just hope through this series, especially this week, that some of our leaders get clued in a little bit more to the long-term reality that we're going to have to be doing digital. We want to be doing digital in a very intentional, proactive, significant way, and that really that's going to be a core part moving forward. The Yeah. So what was that, Michael? Watching from mobile. All right. Yeah. So I think I got the tech issues from yesterday worked out. I just moved offices. We're in a pandemic. It gets kind of monotonous being in the same space all the time. So recently I switched spaces with my daughter's bedroom and my home office. So now I'm in these accommodations. It's like I'm still figuring out how to use it. What do you guys do to mix it up at home? Like, do you do anything creative to like change your environment, scenery? Maybe go out in nature. One of my favorite things that our family did so far is we had a few days where we set up. We have a good sized tent that we got when we went to an outdoor wedding a few years ago. So we set up the tent in the living room and just had like 2 or 3 days where we just had we did like outdoor camping, pandemic camping in the middle of the living room. So, yeah, any ideas are always welcome. One of the things I want to focus on in this session today is talking a little bit about how we use content, the content we're creating, live streams, content created that's like available on demand to really advance your mission, what your goals are as a congregation, and build community. So with that, let's get started. All right. So friends, welcome to this ministry strategy session. Every day this week, I'm just doing a little more casual, riffing on hot topics related to ministry and congregational life right now. Just to kind of trying to touch on some issues that just to help some ideas permeate our larger congregational culture, leadership conversations, and just advance some conversation. So, friends, today I am. Oh, before we get into that, where are you tuning in from? When you're, if you're here with me live, please say hi in a comment. Also, let us know where you're tuning in from. And if you want to share something about your leadership role in your congregation or something about yourself, it's great connecting with you. Sometimes it's hard for me to keep up with all the comments, but I always go back and check them out right afterwards. And they're starting to come in via StreamYard. I'm using StreamYard to broadcast to multiple platforms, Facebook, YouTube, etc. So, why am I in casual mode today? I wanted to wear my PBS Kids shirt because I want to talk content and our being in this mode where we are producing video content and just like streaming or doing all these things in very much a broadcast way. I've spent the last 20 years both working with congregations, but also producing content for PBS Kids shows. So starting in 2002, I started producing live action content for It's like it's the little short activity segments that go along with cartoons. So tell me if you have seen any of these shows. You can just say the show name in a comment. Curious George Show, Peep in the Big Wide World, Arthur, Martha Speaks, Design Squad. That's not a cartoon. Plum Landing. What else was that? Pinkalicious. Oh, Pinkalicious just had the Valentine's special on Pinkalicious. Have you seen any of those? Well, the team I've worked with over the last 20 years produces all the short form activity segments that go. Oh, and Rough Ruffman. I did season 4 of Rough Ruffman. I was on one of their field production teams. Anyhow, so years ago, I connected with a parent of a kid I taught in preschool. I was just doing this is when I was starting to think about where I was going professionally. I was doing work with congregations already, but I contacted my colleague, now colleague, who was a parent whose kid I taught. He worked with educational media. Thought I was doing an informational interview. Ends up the day before I contacted him to connect, we're having coffee, he'd been asked to produce content for a new nationally syndicated PBS Kids science show, like some nationally syndicated science show for kids, Peep in the Big Wide World. It was actually on a different channel at the time, doesn't matter. But he was going to turn down the gig, and then what happens? His kid's former preschool teacher contacted him for an informational interview. So he's like, would you want to work with me as an educator and production team member for a nationally syndicated children's show? I'm like, dude. I don't say dude much, but I'm like, came out. Anyhow, so what I've been doing through that work is producing content that is at the heart designed to not get kids to watch more TV. That's more like the cartoons do, but content that's designed to inspire kids to turn off the TV and go do things, fun activities, explore, experiment, be creative, collaborate with friends, and just really just engage with the world around them and unleash their creativity and learning. Now, right now, I'm looking at content from our congregations constantly. Like I have times in my week where I specifically just go on like YouTube and Facebook and look at like what congregations are doing with not only worship services but other video content, and also talking to lots of religious professionals. And one of the things that's happened over the course of the pandemic is that congregations have gotten into different approaches to producing worship services. Some are doing Zoom worship, where it's a meeting, everyone's on camera, that you control who's speaking. Others are doing Zoom webinar. There's YouTube, you know, all the different platforms. Facebook Premiere, the Live, Premiere, all these different things. But in my conversations with our leaders, some of them are really getting focused on, like, now that we have the ability to pre-record content, edit it, and make a really polished package that's published on say YouTube or Facebook at a scheduled time. And then like they've put out this great thing, just like high quality editing, music, all the things, and things that are hard to do live. And then they have like Sunday morning, easy. There's a problem with that, in that it's very easy to fall into hey, we're content creators, we're broadcasting content that we hope will be valuable to people, hope it's inspirational, meaningful. But right now, we have to be, I think, first and foremost, prioritizing connection and community. If we don't use the content we create, whether it's live, and I do like live content, live or on-demand pre-recorded content, if we're not using that content to spark people's interest in taking next steps in terms of activities in congregational life and connecting with others in the community, and for me, like one of the top things right now is online Zoom groups, though as we can have offline, physically gathering groups. If we're not using our content very strategically to advance people's interest in taking action, engaging in some kind of process of reflection, learning, engaging with others, and conversation that's transformative, you're not gonna compete, friends, with Netflix, HBO Max. How many streaming services are there now? What is the one that just popped up? I just saw an ad. There's a Super Bowl ad. Paramount Plus. Paramount. Oh my gosh, it's like Jean-Luc Picard, all these other characters climbing to the top of Mount Paramount, which is their new like advanced streaming platform, like premium. In terms of creating compelling, engaging, like at the edge of your seat media, like hard to compete with all these different services. Here's a question: what services do you subscribe to right now, or what's your favorite? At least if you don't want to admit you have all of them, that's fine. But I think we had Netflix. I did a trial of HBO Max for a while because I wanted to get into Game of Thrones. I'd never seen Game of Thrones up until a month ago. What else? What else is there? Disney Plus. We have Disney Plus. Yeah, let me know what's your favorite streaming platform. So I think content-wise, like entertaining people, getting people's attention, it's really hard to compete with all the online media and entertainment that there is. So, of course, we want to do a good job. We want to have fantastic preaching, great storytelling, sharing different things related to congregational life, and all that can come through in worship services and other content, video content that's edited and fantastic. But we have to make sure that we are keeping our attention on how do we use what we're doing on video and on social media platforms, and especially live interaction, to create community. And so as you are moving forward and starting, I know a lot of congregations are thinking about like, all right, hitting year 2 of the COVID-19 pandemic. Never thought I'd say that. P2, friends, we're going to pandemic year 2. Thinking about strategies, changes, evaluating what's going on, thinking about hybrid models. And so I would implore you to think about like, all right, how can we, in every single worship service we offer, weave in interactive elements so that we are asking people, whether they're in the sanctuary or live online, to engage with us in some way, asking questions, participate in some way, and make sure that you're not just moving from being online completely to really focusing on being in your sanctuary, gathering physically for worship, other events, and just throwing out like a token live stream to people and hope they watch. We really need to make sure we're interacting, we're sharing conversations, we're asking questions, and really striving for engagement. And then making sure that what we're actually talking about gets people excited to participate in, well, what's your congregation doing that is like where your energy is right now? Like what's most exciting? I think we can get, great question, John. Online polls, you could use online polls. If you're like, so imagine if you're doing services at some point, I'm not going to put a timeline on it, where you have some people gathered in your sanctuary for worship and there are people gathered online. So I think that we want to, and we're going to talk more about some specific ideas about hybrid models over the coming days. I had a question specifically asking, Peter, what do you think about models for hybrid church for congregations 100 members and below? So kind of like that smaller size. I think that if we're gathering, say I'm a minister and we're in the sanctuary and we also have set up so that there's camera and we can see to some extent what's happening online, that what I need to make sure I'm doing as minister, worship leader, whomever is on your ministry team, lay leaders, staff, whatever it is, that you're treating the people live online as much as equal participants in your worship service as those in the room, I think. Digital and like online participation is going to be so big. From now on, I think we need to train the people who start to gather with us that like, hey, we're not going back to hey, we're all gathered in the sanctuary together and there's still a few people online. It's like, no, we are relaunching our congregation as we enter this new phase of life, where we have people online and in the sanctuary, and we are fully integrated. And that means I'm talking to people in the sanctuary. If I'm asking questions there, I'm also asking questions of people on camera. Like turning from like the people there to there. Now, how much do we blend all that? There's questions. Are there things that you could schedule that are just for, say maybe gatherings and parts of worship that are just for people online? Maybe you have certain aspects of your worship service where you're starting off together, and then there's a time where people on Zoom, say a Zoom meeting, are able to engage in small group conversation, and something else is happening locally. Like physically offline. There's lots of ways you can play with it, and I think the experimentation and creativity is going to be fantastic. But note that whatever you do, really try and figure out like how are we designing our worship services and that experience so that we're speaking to people both online and in the physical space with us. Which raises the question, like, where's your preacher? Who are the people leading worship? Are they in the sanctuary or are they online? Or maybe there's a blend. Who knows? But we can do things with Zoom and other platforms where we're asking people to share questions which come in as text comments. So those comments could be integrated right into things that I'm reading as a worship leader. We could have Zoom polls. John asked about Zoom polls. Yeah, absolutely. You could poll people in your sanctuary and have people fill out a poll on Zoom. There's all kinds of technologies now where you can use mobile devices and mobile optimized websites to poll people. What was the I forget. I did some retreats a couple years ago where we did lots of active polling and creating interactive word clouds. Imagine this. So you're asking people to share a word that represents how they're feeling about whatever your topic is. And everyone online gets the link, and the people in your sanctuary get the link, and everybody participates together to create like a word cloud, pieces of art that's then projected in your sanctuary and on your within, say, your Zoom meeting. It's like fully integrated. So you can play with things like that. The thing that I just worry about, and this is kind of like where this is like the cautionary, hey, don't forget community. If we're not anchoring people in community where they're actually having conversations with others, sharing their stories and engaging in some kind of meaningful action, whether that's spiritual reflection, like small group ministry, or working on some ministry team or program together, working on justice efforts. If we don't get people talking to each other face to face, whether that's Zoom face to face, other platforms, or offline, as safe, listen to your Fauci. If we're not doing that, we're always going to just have kind of like our core leadership who are getting their relationships met by their existing committee and team meetings being the ones who are involved. And then people are going to come in, check us out, be inspired a bit, kind of stick around a while. And then over time, without meaningful relationships, like real connections, they fade off. Relationship is the glue that keeps people in congregation, just like hands down. I've read so many books over the years on church growth, small groups, community building, and the thread is, and like great teams, leadership development. My entire church wall of reading could be digested down to get everyone in small groups, have great collaborative teams, and don't get trapped in the mindset of focusing on what's inside your congregation's building, but make sure you're focused on your larger mission and do outreach. Like 2/3 of all the books just talk about those themes. All right, now questions. If you have questions, let me know in a comment. I gotta pull up a little screen here. Hold on one second. One of my windows just shifted. I'm all juggling too many. Squeeze, there we go. On my StreamYard, I was looking super saturated. All right. If you have questions, put a comment in the chat wherever you are. Does that make sense though, that like we can get so, I think, especially when we have people who are in leadership, who have an inclination towards perfection and being perfectionist, being able to pre-record, record messages multiple times until they get it just right, work with colleagues, volunteers and others to collaborate and produce high quality worship service that's just like perfection. Maybe it's not perfection, but it's like high level of quality. Of course we want quality, but that can be a trap. If we're not connecting with people, being relational, interactive, like I would take your fanciest, like, wow, how did you produce that this Sunday and every other week for however many months? How did you do that worship service and trade it for a not as pretty interactive live service myself, where I get to interact with people and the interactive elements that are woven into that worship design like are fed like right into what we're experiencing, where it's clear that like we are there together. We're live. There's connection in the sense of collaboration with the worship leaders. I think that's beautiful, and like there's so much energy there. Now, yes. High quality is what? High quality. That's great. I had a minister colleague tell me once. I think I was challenging the music. Like I'm like, how many? If you are like all in for organ music, that's fine. Me, it's not my jam. And I was saying like, I kind of question like to what extent because we were talking about church growth, like why isn't our congregation growing? We're doing all the right things. And like, well, you're really saturating your worship services with organ music. It's like, what's wrong with organ music? We have the best organ. I'm gonna get to a related point. We have the best organist in the multiverse. There are two kinds of music, Peter, he said. Good music and bad music. And we, without a doubt, have great music. It's very clear on that. And I said, who's your favorite artist? Like rock, pop, whatever star. Like when you're in the car, rocking out, driving, or cleaning your house, mopping, who do you listen to? And it was something like top 40. It wasn't like Taylor Swift or something like that. I'm like, all right, would you have Taylor Swift perform that song as like the prelude to a funeral? It's like, no, never. I'm like, why not? That's like the most amazing song. It's like top of the charts. That's great music, isn't it? He's like, yeah, but it's the wrong music for that. Wait, it's the wrong music. So we can put things in worship services that are great. But the question is, what's the point of what we're doing? What's the ministry objective of a given service? And so I think we always need to make sure that we are anchoring ourselves in, all right, right now, especially as we can't gather easily offline, it's challenging. Always listen to your public health officials and follow guidelines. That we're making sure, like, all right, one of the things we have to do is make sure, is like, are we helping everybody who's connected to our congregation have conversations with other human beings and be seen and heard and have meaningful exchanges like weekly, or maybe every other week, monthly if you kind of tend towards like not too much human interaction, whatever, or how you have enough people at home. But like we have to think about like, what are our ministry objectives right now? And so if you think through your congregation's objectives, I'm going to wrap it up in just a moment. If you think through your ministry objectives, especially in this pandemic context, and then as you're starting to look at hybrid models of combining physical offline gathering in your building with online services, got to think about like, what are our ministry objectives? What are the things we want people to do, take action on, get involved in, and how do we use that time to advance that very specifically? Because I wouldn't say that there's necessarily good worship and bad worship. I say there's worship that advances your purposes as a congregation and those that don't. I've been to amazing worship services in terms of every single element that did nothing to move me closer to the congregation, did nothing to inspire me to get involved, did nothing to connect me to others. So think about your ministry objectives and how do we use the tools of our time in our gatherings, offline and online, to advance those. And for me, I think it's going to be a blend moving forward. One of the things I look forward to experimenting and exploring with all of you in the months to come is like, how can we use interactive tools both in our sanctuaries, physically and online, like use the tools. So I think some of you, Michael maybe and John mentioned some tools like Mentimeter. I haven't used that. If there are any digital tools that you recommend that are interactive, I'd love to know it. You can comment, but also feel free to email me. Just go to www.peterbowden.live. Can contact me. I just want to end with a question for you. All right, this relates to worship and also thinking about the future. How long are your worship services online right now? How long are they? And I'm going to tell you about a trend. I've been listening to all kinds of church leadership podcasts and watching how people in the larger church world, like Christian church world, I'm Unitarian Universalist. I work with interfaith and a wide range of congregations and leaders, from humanist to Unitarian Universalist, I'm Buddhist, whatever. I'm seeing a trend as some of the people who are really innovating, their worship services are getting shorter because they're realizing the old format of an hour-long worship service is not advancing their ministry goals. So some congregations doing more like closer to half an hour and then using that time to inspire people to get involved in other programs. How long are your services? It's a good question. I was thinking is the length of a service right now a good indicator of how people are tuning into the reality of people's behavior? I think an hour is so long, but I'd love to hear how long are your worship services? Have you thought about playing around with it, different formats? All right, let's wrap up. One of the things that I want to talk about in the remaining sessions this week are different ideas and approaches to hybrid worship. I've been thinking about it a lot. I want to share some ideas. And then also, as we move forward beyond this week, I'm going to be doing some time the next month working with my Video Ministry Academy program. So that's my on-demand training, video ministry strategy, skill training, and just strategy conversations. If you're interested in that, just go to videoministryacademy.com. But as we kind of move beyond that, I want to create more opportunities to talk about, to get creative and collaborate more with all of you. So I'm starting to schedule some sessions, kind of called Reimagining our ministry sessions. I have a session coming up with a group of membership professionals, and I just love the idea of gathering people together and having opportunities to be creative, to brainstorm, share ideas in kind of a safe, exciting, creative, and facilitated space. So if that's something that's of interest to you, feel free to reach out. I'm still figuring out how I weave in all those conversations. Some of my friends here know that I keep talking about doing more with Zoom gatherings, but I haven't done too much with Zoom gatherings yet. Here we go. I love my live streaming. I'm still weaving in all the different options and platforms. So with that, I hope you have a great day. If you have questions or feedback, comments, and that you'd like me to hit on Thursday or Friday, love to hear it. And thanks for being here and being part of my training community. I love learning, growing, and strategizing with all of you. So have a great day. And if you check out PBS Kids right now, they're doing a Pinkalicious Valentine's Day special. That was the last segment I helped produce before I kind of retired from that work. So long, PBS. All right, have a good one. I'll talk to you guys soon. And with that,